if you're really to look at our cultural practice, all those things are perpetuating different types of values. And so culture is man-made, and anything that is man-made can be undone, especially if it's harmful, especially if it's harmful. Because we live in the diaspora and we are always trying to define who we are, right? Because we live in such a white-dominated culture and society, and so we are always being challenged on our cultural identity, right? And so we cling on to this idea that Tongan culture in Tonga is like real, it's the real culture. When in reality, Tongan culture in Tonga changes daily. It changes every second. It is living and it is breathing. And so Tongan culture for us here in America is different as well. So it is evolving, it is changing, but we are also part of many cultures. So again, going back to the nature of culture and really I understanding the dynamic nature of culture, how useful is it to us as Tongans in America? Are those things that we still want to continue? You have the power to change it. And just because these things are cultural, it doesn't mean that they cannot be
Do you
changed.
feel like it's not anybody's responsibility to have to donate to a Koloa?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because I'm wondering, like, obviously you just want people to give what they can give, not to
Yeah.
feel like burden. And again, it's like and I
So
think this is one of the Fahu dramas, is that people are having a hard time to continuously give,
yeah,
you know?
I think this is a good question about going back to culture. And I think some of the conversations that we have with our students here is when we are examining cultural traditions and rituals, and we are identifying what are the values that are being perpetrated when you are performing a taolunga, when you are giving koloa at a funeral or at a birthday party. And in gift giving, um, we might get caught up in the whole elaborate stacks of koloa that they bring with them. But we don't really give a lot of consideration um, into the fact that gift giving is really a form of reciprocation, right? Culturally. Today, I don't think that's happening, and it's not looking like it's really more about how extravagant your gifts are, the gifts that you are giving. But if you were to think back in the old days, Koloa was recycled, right? And so it may look new if you were at a Tongan event and you see people bringing out all their koloa, but those are gifts that have been treasured by these families that were given to them by other families for different reasons, to build relationships, to maintain relationships. And those things are not meant for you. Koloa is never meant for you to sit on, even though our parents put it underneath our mattresses. And
Literally, you sit on it.
yeah, so you sit on it and you don't have a nice soft mattress to sleep on, but
Your mattress is broken.
Yeah. And so we really get our students to think about what it is that we are perpetuating. Okay, so reciprocity, the reason why you reciprocate and the reason why you pass on these things. Because if you really think about it, you're recycling these things. It's good for the environment. Okay, not only that, but you are also perpetuating arts and crafts in Tongan women's circles, because they are the ones who are producing this material culture. And so there are many benefits to what we see visually that are happening before that event, and it could be decades of people weaving these gifts, making these tapa cloths, and they are giving it out at these events. And to really enforce a lot of those Tongan cultural values that we share. I think that's changed so much because now it's all about the bling. I am working on a podcast. I am working on a podcast on the fascinating life of William Mariner. And so I don't know if a lot of you people out there that are watching right now know who William Mariner is. Do you know who William Mariner is? William Mariner was a cabin clerk on a ship called the Port-au-Prince. And the Port-au-Prince landed in Tonga in 1806, I believe. I'm trying to think back to my research here. And so he was only 15 years old at the time. But I'm not going to reveal a lot of the details, but he ended up living in Tonga for 4 years, from 1806 to 1810, and he was originally from England. And so we have this book that that was written based on just his experience in Tonga, and it's such a fascinating look at pre-Christian Tonga and just how different, you know, cultural traditions and practices look like in those days. And then just the whole story of, you know, this little Palangi boy growing up in Tonga. I just felt like it would make a really good podcast for those of us, especially who have never heard of, you know, William Mariner and his time in Tonga. It's definitely a window of time in Tonga that has not been captured by, you know, other people. So that's what the podcast is about. Coming out next week.